gorgeous, and a fantastic piece of kit. But as the doctor said, it's got independent suspension all around, hydraulic brakes, big brakes, beautiful gearbox, transaxle gearbox, great weight distribution, and I mean for 1938 that was really quite outstanding. But you have to say that when you come here to the foundation, the Simeone Foundation, it's hard to pick a winner because there are so many fantastic cars here. It's really hard to say, oh, what's your favourite one? Yeah, because there's just so many amazing bits of kit here.
And how many of them have you raced or driven?
Well, I've worked on a few of the cars, not the actual cars here, but obviously the GT40, the 917. Obviously these are a bit, even these are a bit before my time.
I mean only a little bit.
Only a bit, yeah. And I think that's it really, the GT40. Oh, and the Shelby, the Cobra, I've driven one of those a couple of times. So yeah, I've driven a few.
Cool. We're going to get these, I think, fired up and driving around. I think the good doctor's going to take the first one out. We've got the 1927 Mercedes-Benz S-Type down the far end, which he was talking about earlier, which is a fascinating car. Mr. Porsche designed it, as he did so many of the early Mercedes. Came in 1924.
He also designed the
I believe.
The Volkswagen.
He did. Mr. Porsche designed everything that wasn't a Porsche in the early days. But there's a fascinating story actually about the genesis of that car and the early Mercedes that Mr. Porsche designed back in 1924 when they went to the Targa Florio. And of course all the cars are painted, well, all those cars, painted white. As they were back in the day. You had to paint it the colour of your national colour. So you had white cars for Germany, there's red for Italy, British racing green, of course, French cars were blue, and as we said, German cars were white. But in the Targa Florio in 1924, the Italian fans would see these white cars coming, they'd see the blue cars coming, and they'd throw trees onto the track, and they'd throw rocks to stop them from going past and flying through and going too quickly. So Mercedes came up with well, exactly. But Mercedes came up with a brilliant idea, and they painted their cars red. And sure enough, they won because the Italians wouldn't throw anything in front of a red car, and so Mercedes won the Targa Florio in 1924 in a red car, and it's the only red car in the Mercedes Museum in Stuttgart, amongst a sort of a plethora of white cars.
The Targa Florio was one of the races I did not do. It was still going when I started racing. I dearly wanted to drive in the Targa Florio, but it's just one of those ones that got away. My friend Brian Redman did it a number of times, won it twice, and also got severely burnt, nearly got killed there in a crash in a 908, because in those days racing really was tough going, and he got out in the middle of nowhere, and the only thing that was, when he managed to get out of the car through the windshield, where the windshield had popped out, it was on fire, and he staggered over to the grass and lay down, and he was there for something like 20 minutes before a helicopter finally came to find him. Meanwhile, his wallet and watch had gone. So there were people watching.
Honestly, you were supposed to be helping him.
I wasn't there. Otherwise I would have helped him. Hang on a minute.
Wait, don't pretend. I've never seen this. I have never seen this in my life. The notes are getting excited. They've never seen your wallet either.
No, you haven't.
It's a tip-top. Does Tip-Top Bar still have your unpaid bill in Monaco?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
Went to the Tip-Top Bar for the Monte Carlo Grand Prix in 1963. I drove in the Formula Junior race. Richard Atwood was my teammate. He was driving another Formula Junior. He won the race. I dropped out, and Mrs. Hobbs came. She used to come to a lot of races because our boys were very small then. We went to the bar, and we were in there with there was an aspiring Formula 1 driver by the name of Jimmy Clark. Anyway, we were all in there together, dancing away and having a good time. And we inadvertently bought a bottle of champagne, which we decided was a bit expensive. So we all left.
Through the toilet window?
Through the toilet window.
Yeah. And never been back since?
Never been back since.
Lovely stuff. Right, I think we're going to get these cars started, are we not? And rolling.
Where's the old Dr. Orlo?
I don't know, he was around.
He's
down there. Oh, there he is. Of course, the legend, supposedly, of the Silver Arrows comes from that white paint on the Mercedes. It's a well-worn tale. I don't know if it's true or false. As the years go on, it tends to be sort of decided that it's not quite as true as everybody thought it was. But so the story goes that 1934, I want to say, at the Nürburgring, keeping it relevant to the Nürburgring cars, they were slightly overweight, and so they stripped the paint off, and thus was born the bare aluminium and the silver arrow.
No, just aluminium, not
aluminium. Aluminum, yes, folks, aluminium. we keep the vowels in the words. We do. Aluminium, magnesium. Is it magnesium? That's the thing. Do you say magnesium or magnesium?
Yeah, exactly.
Magnesium, but aluminium's too hard.
You say sodium.
Okay.
You say sodium or sodom.
Or sodom. Oh dear. Well, there we go.
There we go. Here's Kevin.
If you've parked down there, good luck.
Just watching it and listening to it there, the gears howling away and him shifting gears. Imagine driving that thing around for 6 hours.
He's playing Carracciola now.
He's playing Carracciola. So this is the actual car that Otto Merz drove to the German Grand Prix, the very first German Grand Prix in 1927. 1927 is the actual car, the actual chassis. Its sister car won the day before, 2 days before, Rudi Carracciola won. And that was a shortened race.
It was a test race because it was the first race ever at the track. It was a short one, but this race was called the German Grand Prix. And because there was no other Grand Prix, they also called it the European Grand Prix.
Nice, given that obviously Nürburgring ended up hosting the European Grand Prix while Hockenheim hosted the German Grand Prix for many, many years.
Well, when they had two venues, they broke it up, right.
It's a beautiful looking thing. And the amazing thing about these cars that I hadn't realised is you don't update them. Everything is spec, everything is as was, and they are kept here in a live museum, ready to be driven at any time.
As I mentioned sometimes we're forced to restore them because they come in bits. But when a car is restored with all new stuff, it feels tight, it feels unfriendly. I analogized it earlier to David like your baseball glove. When you take it out of the box brand new, it's stiff and it's a little too. Then when you work it in with the neat foot oil and it gets soft, it becomes a different feeling. That's the feeling we like. Like this car's never been restored, this Mercedes.
Like my dad, when he was still with us, he got himself a new hip, and he walked with a limp forever. It was never the same. You can't just replace cars and expect it to be the same.
Two BMWs were new. This one was hidden from the Germans when they invaded the Netherlands, so they're hidden under so much hay. It wasn't discovered till 1980. And that one, the owner of that had it for about 47 years, and he's here to visit us. We have just cleaned that up. That's about all it needed. It was a good thing.
What you were saying earlier, Hobbo, about trying to wrestle that thing through the corners. It's amazing how ungainly it seems, and yet so quick in its day.
Obviously got plenty of performance. I mean, it's got quite a bit of power, supercharged, obviously. That gives you just a little extra whack, which you need going up the hills at the Nurburgring, because as Dr. Simeone said, you know, it's 14 miles long, it's got 170 odd corners, and every corner is either preceded or proceeded by a hill, and so you need plenty of power and torque. But just look at those wheels and tyres. Imagine how heavy that steering would be, because obviously no power steering in those days, and also how awkward and heavy the gearbox would be. I mean, this is not a slick change.
Imagine taking that thing through Adenau. You know Adenau, remember at Nürburgring? Getting that through Adenau would be something else.
Now the BMW here, which go out next, is just the opposite. It's light, it's easy to manage, it has more than enough power for its lightweight, and it's a totally different feeling. So I'm von Honstein, and he's Henne, and we're going to do the 1939 Nürburgring sports car race.
Excellent. I believe it only lasted 7 hours, so 7 minutes, fine. Perfect.
See a picture of Husker van Hanstein's car on the grid, the number 19 car. It's got the SS on the side, and Husker van Hanstein was a member of the SS, but somehow got away with it all, and he ran the Porsche competition department for years and years and years, and I met him many times. and he looked at you through those glasses, and hello David, how are you? Very good to see you again. And you always felt like giving the old
by the German government in the 1930s, and they ran with the swastika on the side. Same in Italy. Alfa Romeo had huge funding from Mussolini, and did Pirelli, and a lot of the money went into keeping those teams afloat during the 1930s, and actually kept them running, you know, as part of the war effort.
I mean, it was a big part of their war effort. And, I drove for BMW in 1977, 78, 86, and I used to go to the BMW car club meetings a lot. And at Lime Rock, I was giving a speech one day, and I said, "Oh, I love BMWs," because I remember when I was a small boy, I used to hear the sound of BMW engines. The only trouble was they were attached to Dornier bombers.
I bet they loved you.
The BMW people there didn't seem to think that was very fun.
You're a PR agent's dream. PR agent's dream.
Julius Strobel was here looking after us, curled up under the desk. He said what?
Beautiful looking cars, but as the guys were saying, these are really nimble little cars, shorter gauge, beautiful looking things though, but they ran throughout the 1930s into the late 1930s, about the time that Mercedes had actually switched its attentions to land speed record attempts. Rudy Caracciola going down the German autobahns, which were produced not in small amounts to try and go for that land speed record run. The most monstrous one was the Black Eagle, that never actually ran, and if it had done, probably would have sort of broken itself apart. It was a big six-wheel car. Oh, are we almost? Yes. Possibly. Maybe.
It's like business after the traffic lights. Don't tell
There
us
we go.
that.
They're filming this.
No,
They're filming this. Shush. Edit that bit out, yeah? Nice. And there we go. Off and running. I think a little round of applause.
Yeah. They are such
Six-cylinder, 1.97 litre engine, 80 horsepower, just the 80. Beautiful sound. And again, as we were saying, far more nimble, far more manoeuvrable, far more racy. And it really is that incredible development of racing cars in such a short amount of time. You think between that 1927 Mercedes and this, the 1939 BMW, just the advancement and development in the design over that short decade.
Yeah, and I mean, these look, you know, this could easily be a post-war car, couldn't it? I mean, it really.
Oh, very much so.
I mean, these are pretty slick-looking cars with the headlights moulded into the front. We're going to get somebody as soon as somebody's not me or will.
And again, so much of this was down to the knowledge of aerodynamics and also the building of the cars on a space frame, just as they were doing with the, you know, with the aeroplanes.
Yeah, back in 1938, a German journalist, Ernest Rosemann, said, "Car racing will never give drivers the prospect of making a living, but sports car racing must and will remain a matter of amateurs."
What do you say to that?
I wonder if Mercedes management know that. Now they pay Hamilton $50 million a year.
Yeah, Mercedes celebrating 125 years in motorsport this year. It is 125 years since the very first road race from Paris to Rouen, which was won, actually the win was shared between Peugeot and Panhard, although it's interesting that neither the Peugeot nor the Panhard ran a French engine in it because they weren't good enough to run the entire duration of the race, so they ran with a Daimler engine in the front of the car, both of them. It was a 2.5 horsepower engine, the Daimler engine. So Daimler can claim to have won the very first
race
125 years ago this year.
And they won the last Grand Prix last week in Nürburgring.
They did indeed, bringing it full circle.
Yeah.
In their 201st Formula One Grand Prix.
Think about these cars. These are not supercharged. No, they were a lot quicker than a lot of their contemporaries at the time, Alfa Romeo included. And these cars, these won a lot of races. These 328s, Mille Miglia, Le Mans, They did well at Le Mans, and of course the Nurburgring. As you can see, it's a pretty agile little car.
But it also looks like a kind of car you'd like to take out on a summer's afternoon. Chuck a picnic in the back.
I'd love to be able to take one out on Sunday afternoon.
Beautiful.
But I'd have to borrow your wallet to do that.
Because you don't have a wallet, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the engineers in those days were pretty amazing. These cars gave about 85 horsepower, 4,500 RPM. So the quality was there. You'd get the horsepower, but of course in those days, with the materials available, the bearing materials, the crankshafts, the conrods, pistons, you know, they hadn't got good enough materials. Now, metallurgy has come on so far that an engine like this would be revving to 8,000 RPM and conceivably giving 160 horsepower without really changing the design much of the cylinder head and the camshaft and the valve. They just can't rev enough, and they couldn't rev enough because they just couldn't make stuff strong enough.
I think a round of applause, folks. It's coming to an end for these two now. Bring them in. Of course, the 1938 and 1939 BMW 328, and of course the Second World War breaking out in 1939 brought an end to motor racing and competition.
Well, for the real races, you could lower the screen so the car was a bit more streamlined. And, but
I think your mic's gone off, mate.
Okay, it's design with that built-in headlight and that beautifully shaped front fender moulding into the rear. I mean, these are very, very handsome cars.
And so from that, we leapfrog straight over to 1955. Segway.
The 300SL Gullwing Coupe.
Indeed. Big year in 1955 for Mercedes. Not all of it good.
No.
No. Should we talk about
Their race car probably wouldn't give 200.
No.
And they averaged 100 miles an hour.
Steel drum brakes.
1,000 miles. Just going over ordinary roads.
But the astonishing thing that I think with that is everyone talks about Moss and Jenkinson, and it was an astonishing record.
Yeah, this is a good point.
7 minutes behind them was Fangio in the sister car with no co-driver, because he killed a co-driver in a crash at the Mille Miglia a couple of years before, and he swore he would never take responsibility for another driver ever again, co-driver. So he did the 1,000 miles in 10 hours and 7 minutes, all by himself.
Which is probably, really even more amazing.
But this car, an absolutely incredible car. I think one of the most astonishing things with this is when they first put it into production in 1955, the vast majority of those cars were shipped over to America.
Well, it says here, on your note, 1,100 came to the United States, out of 1,400 built.
There you go.
So America obviously is becoming a big target for Mercedes, and Mercedes is becoming a big target for president at the moment. The
good doctor told me earlier. The good doctor told me earlier that he picked up his first one of these for a casual $4,000. I mean, that's insane. But it's back in the day on a second-hand car lot.
Probably more than that now, isn't it?
I think a spark plug for that would be worth it. It is a stunning car, an absolute stunning car. There is, however, an advanced version of this. At the end of the 1955 season, the SLR that was racing in the Mille Miglia at Formula 1 races as well,
we can bring it next time.
Director Ulmhout of Mercedes-Benz created a road-going version of their Formula 1 car, which would be essentially this car on steroids. But after the Le Mans accident in 1955 that involved Mercedes, they pulled out of all international competition and decided that they would concentrate on road-going cars, but those road-going cars were not going to be aligned to their racing pedigree because they were a little bit, obviously, embarrassed about what had happened at Le Mans. And so this incredible car was never put into production. Only 2 exist in the world. I was lucky enough to see one of them last week in Stuttgart, in the Holy Halls. There are 11 warehouses dotted around Stuttgart, completely secret, that contain all of Mercedes' most loved, most important cars, and it's just sitting there, covered in dust. beautiful thing. There's only 2 of them in existence. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously it was incredibly advanced there. It's got, one of the reasons it's got the gullwing doors, it's got a very deep side panel, rocker panel, and so to make the door work, that's why they hinged it upwards, because it's got that deep rocker panel, which gives the chassis some
because it was a racing car.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be a road car, it was a racing car.
It gives it a lot of rigidity.
And that was exactly it, that space frame based on obviously all the knowledge they had from the aeroplanes, from the aeronautical world, and give it some wings. And now, a car I was not aware we were going to have today, but we do, and it's a stunner. The most successful car at the Nürburgring ever. Having taken the win in 57, 58 and 59, DBR1 Aston Martin, absolutely astonishingly beautiful. I mean, it almost looks organic, doesn't it? It's just a staggeringly good car.
And those cars were prepared and run by John Wyer, and they called with Roy Salvadori and Sterling Moss driving. Sterling Moss, Roy Salvadori and Carroll Shelby. Roy Salvadori and Carroll Shelby won the 1959 Le Mans 24 hour with one of these cars.
You can hear it.
I want you to look at that as a piece of sculpture. It pains me to say that I think the prettiest car in the collection is not Italian. But that is as beautiful as any Italian sports car. I mean, you wouldn't change a molecule on the design. With that, it has a transaxle torsion bar suspension, an indestructible engine. These cars were 3-time winners in the 1,000 kilometers of the Nürburgring, and how do you beat that? They only made 4 of them. Just absolutely has everything.
Simeone said it does have everything, and it certainly is the most gorgeous looking piece of art that you see.
And sounding as well. And you can hear it. You can hear how much he wants to open it up. It's the kind of car that just desires just to be driven, isn't it? Driven hard and opened up. And that's the kind of car you can imagine doing 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
You can imagine that sound. Absolutely opened up. It's a stunning one. It's absolutely beautiful.
This particular car in the 1959 mile race was given to Sterling Moss to drive as hard as he could. They called it the rabbit car. And the idea was to drive it so fast that the 12-cylinder Ferraris, in trying to keep up with them, would all break, which they did. And Roy Salvadori and the Carroll Shelby. And then when we took the engine apart, the history was that for this car they ran a 4-bearing crankshaft instead of the usual 7, thinking that that might be more appropriate. And we took the engine apart, and it's the only one still in there.
So did this car finish? Yeah, he broke the Ferrari, but then he broke himself.
Yeah.
John Wyatt, who ran these cars, had a very illustrious career in long distance racing. He went on to run the Ford GTs, 1968-69. He won Le Mans 1968-69, and in 1970 and 71 with the Porsche 917. So
Just an astonishingly beautiful car. And again, good for a weekend drive.
Kevin didn't like that at all.
No.
Yeah.
Now what we're going to do is open up the hoods and let you all out to look underneath. What you're going to see while they're opening them up, what you're going to see is a straight 6-cylinder engine, long history. We just found out that a Polish expatriate helped to design this. I just learned that, named Marek. It's a hidden factor, but he was one of the designers who came over from Poland after the war was over, and the Polish community in Philadelphia is going to honor him here. So you'll see that also, torsion bar suspension, independent four-wheel, transaxle, the best. These two are much more basic, single overhead cam with push rods, simple 80 horsepower engine, but all the power you need for a car that weighs about 750 kilograms. So it's wonderful. Of course, the going Mercedes, I want you to notice that the engine is tilted. The engine, normally the valve cover, of course, is straight on top. In order to get the profile low, in order to get the front hood to go down and be more aerodynamic, they tilted it. That tilting meant that it was necessary to cut grooves in the bonnet in order to accommodate the tilted engine. So all of these cars, and you'll see it in the one out there, have two nice, very nice torpedo-shaped, I guess, gussets on the bonnets, one for the hood and one to match it, which has no function. And then, of course, the Mercedes has everything too. Supercharged, single overhead cam, 7 liters, and it's a wonderful car. So let's come out and look under those engines.